Hey there, Dr. Anna Maria Hill, herbalist and microbiologist with osada.com. Today is a little teaser video for an upcoming class I'm offering on my Osada site on acid reflux. So this will be a live interactive Zoom class, given what's going on with COVID, on Wednesday, January 5th. 2021, starting at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So you'll be able to ask questions and share experiences during the class. And if you can't make that date and time, I'll also have the class available on the website because it will be recorded. So going to talk just a little bit today about acid reflux, which afflicts many people. It's a common and annoying disorder that can range from, well, annoying to, if it's chronic, year after year after year, actually potentially dangerous, because when that acid is coming up out of our stomach into our esophagus repeatedly, it causes repeated inflammatory damage to the lining, the epithelial cells of the esophagus. Over and over and over again, that inflammatory damage can increase the risk of esophageal cancer, which really sucks. So it's actually important to deal with acid reflux and not to ignore it. Now, a lot of people don't even realize they have reflux. Sure, for many people, they can taste it if it comes all the way up, or they might feel the burn, heartburn as they call it. But a lot of people will have silent reflux, where maybe the only way they know they have it is they have this constant annoying little cough where there's this urge to clear one's throat frequently. So that can be a sign of reflux. Now, in the class, I'm going to get into some of my favorite herbs for helping to deal with reflux, but really foundational to dealing with reflux is looking at what you're eating. So, paying attention to those foods that seem to trigger you. And there are common foods that trigger a lot of people, things like dairy, for instance, that could be hard to digest. One of my favorite foods on the planet, chocolate, which I otherwise feel is a superfood when we're talking about dark chocolate. But chocolate for many people can be a trigger. Things like beer, alcohol can be a trigger. Coffee, in my own case, margaritas can be a trigger. So making note of those foods that can set you off and starting to minimize them. Other tips can be things like eating smaller, discrete meals rather than big meals, and then spacing those meals out by a few hours throughout the day. That can be easier for the digestive system to handle those meals, particularly the stomach. Some other tricks would be not being physically active after a meal. I have a bad habit of going out for a bike ride after eating lunch, and I get reflux. It's not a great idea. So paying attention to those things that set you off. Now let's jump a little bit more into acid reflux and what can cause it aside for what I'm talking about. Acid reflux is when our stomach content, including the stomach acid, hydrochloric acid, goes the wrong way. So it's going back up into the esophagus instead of staying in the stomach and ultimately passing down into our intestines. In traditional Chinese medicine, they'll call this rebellious qi, or rebellious qi would be a reason for this, meaning that the qi in our digestive system, or the energy, is moving upwards instead of downwards the way it's supposed to go. Now, when we're looking at normal function of the stomach, what happens is food comes in from the top, passing through what's known as the lower esophageal sphincter. It's a ring of muscle that can open and close involuntarily. I kind of have it drawn as a flap here, which isn't entirely accurate, but that was easier to draw. So this sphincter opens, the LES, the lower esophageal sphincter, opens to allow our food that we've hopefully chewed well to pass down into the stomach, into this stomach acid that I'm showing here in green. So this is a happy stomach. That stomach acid is going to help break down the chunks of food that we've swallowed. But another very important function of that stomach acid is as part of our immune system. It actually will help inactivate any microbes that happen to be in our food, be it viruses or bacteria, things like that. The stomach acid helps protect us from that. But anyway, this is a representation of the normal function where food is hitting that acid and starting to get broken down. And what will happen, hopefully, is that the food will be broken down and made into something called chyme, C-H-Y-M-E, and eventually that mix of acid and food and dead microbes will pass down into the small intestine, where the acid will be neutralized, other digestive enzymes will be added into the mix, and the real majority of digestion takes place. Now, this happens when the pH of the stomach becomes acidic enough, it becomes low enough. This lower passageway in the stomach will open up and let our chyme, our mix of acid, food, and actually mucus will pass into the small intestines. Now, it only becomes acidic enough when enough acid is produced, and that sets off a trigger to say, okay, start spitting some of this stuff into the small intestine for the digestive process to continue. Now, what can go awry is reflux. Again, where stuff's going the wrong way. And one of the most common reasons, or a very common reason for reflux, is not enough acid being produced in the stomach. This is maybe not what you would think, given that acid inhibitors are kind of handed out like candy, PPI medications, and things like Tums and such. Acid reflux is very commonly due to insufficient acid. The technical term for this is hypochlorhydria. So hypo meaning not enough, chlorhide, hydrochloric acid, hypochlorhydria. This is especially common in those of us above a certain age, but can happen in younger folks as well due to a wide variety of reasons. And what happens here is, I just told you that during normal function of the stomach will not release its contents down into the intestines unless the environment within the stomach is acidic enough. If there's not enough acid being produced, the stomach does not as quickly release our chyme down into the small intestines. And what happens is stuff starts going north, stuff starts going up. Part of this is also because if the stomach isn't acidic enough, there's a signal that causes the lower esophageal sphincter, this thing that normally seals the top of the stomach, to keep opening. So we get reflux. What is the most common response in our society to acid reflux? Taking acid inhibitors of various ilk. Guess what that does? Ultimately, it exacerbates this problem. It makes it worse. Now, again, it is important to deal with reflux. We don't want our esophagus to get damaged from frequent reflux, that acid burning it and causing damage. And we'll get into that in the class, aside from the tips that I've already shared with you on how to deal with this. Now, sometimes it is, in fact, too much acid that is causing acid reflux, especially if you are noticing reflux, for instance, in between meals, before you eat or after you eat. If you're noticing reflux when you lie down, that can possibly be a sign of too much acid going on, and there are ways to deal with this naturally. And then sometimes acid reflux can come from that lower esophageal sphincter, the thing that normally helps seal the top of the stomach. If that LES, or lower esophageal sphincter, is not working properly, it lacks tone. So that's another reason possibly for acid reflux. And this is also evidenced, for instance, by when you lay down, even on an empty stomach, you're noticing reflux. So you go to bed at night and such, you're noticing reflux. That can sometimes be due to that sphincter not working. It can be due to other things as well. So thanks for tuning in. If you want to get even deeper into this and learn some great plants and a yummy gourmet mushroom that can be helpful for dealing with reflux, check out my upcoming class that I mentioned. You can find it on www.osada.com. You can get the spelling on that in the little comment section of this video, and join us. It'd be great to meet you, even if it is through a video screen. Take care and be well. A happy and healthy and peaceful New Year to all of you.